I've just made a jump from iPhone 14 Pro to iPhone 16 Pro Max, and as a professional wedding photographer who actually loves taking photos with his phone, I had to put these cameras to the test. So I took it out for real-world trial with a couple portraits and some flash photography, and I have to say the results are really good. But there's a twist. I actually found out that not using RAW format was a game changer to me. Curious? Let me break down my experience with using iPhone 16 Pro from a photographer perspective. For those of you who are new to the channel, my name is Magic. I'm a destination wedding photographer, and I've been running this YouTube channel for over 3 years now, talking about cameras, gear, lenses for wedding photography specifically. So if you're into any of that, make sure to subscribe. Let's jump right into the first new feature on iPhone 16 Pro, which I thought is going to be amazing, the camera control button right here. So there's this new button on our iPhones made specifically to control your camera. So when you press it down, you go straight into the camera mode, and then where you're in camera, you can use it as your shutter button when you click on it, or if you half press on it, there is this new control option. At first, when I saw this during the keynote, I thought, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. I love this. I love taking horizontal photos with my phone. And I thought it's going to be great for changing the exposure, because this camera control can be set up to either change the depth of field in your image, or zoom, or exposure, or photography styles, and a couple other things, I think. And for me, because I do often, underexpose my images or expose them slightly differently than a natural exposed image by iPhone, I thought it's going to be really great to have it under your finger. But it is simply unusable to me. I had so many problems using this on an actual shoot. I loved having the button to take photos, but only horizontally. Whenever I wanted to take vertical photos, it was way easier for me to just press on the screen. But then whenever I tried to, underexpose or change the exposure, I was struggling with this button. It's not as precise and as quick as I would just press on a screen and, go down and up. This is how I used to use it before. Maybe this is just because, I'm used to doing it differently. But for this particular feature, no, it was bad. And then during taking photos, a couple times I was just overexposing my images by mistake, when using this button as a shutter button. So no, the camera control, I say no to that. This is a useless feature on iPhone, I think. Maybe it could be more useful to use it for, changing the depth, because the depth, if you're using portrait mode, it doesn't have a quick adjustment option. There's no way to quickly go into, changing the depth when taking a picture. So maybe that could be it, but still, it's a big feature in a features list, but in a real life, from my perspective, it's unusable, which sucks, but yeah, it is what it is. So let's talk about the camera updates now. So iPhone Pros, they do have 3 cameras, two of them wide angle ones, so 0.5x, and regular ones, so 1x, have 48 megapixel sensors now, and they both give us 24 megapixel regular photos. And then the 5x camera is a 12 megapixel camera, which gives us 12 megapixel photos. In order to get full resolution photos, so 48 megapixel photos from the first 2 cameras, you do need to shoot either full Pro RAW format or the Hive up to 48 megapixel format. Both have to be toggled on when shooting, and then you get these full resolution files. I'm going to talk about the experience of using this in a moment. Since this is my first phone with a 5x camera, so 120 millimeter equivalent of the focal length, I thought this is going to be amazing, this is going to be useful, but in a real shoot, 120 millimeters, it's not something I would find very much useful. I snapped this picture, and it's nice. It's in portrait mode. That's why the depth of field is kind of, blurry. So it's a nice picture. It's a nice picture, but nothing spectacular. I think that this lens will be much more useful for a regular casual snaps, you're at Taylor Swift concert and you need to zoom in and use that 120 mil, that's when this lens will come useful. But for like photography wise, when taking some cool photos, I don't see much use for this particular lens. Then we have this upgrade to the ultra wide angle lens, so that 0.5x lens. Like internet is praising this ultra wide angle cameras, and now we have like the better resolution out of this camera. But for me, again, this lens is like 13 millimeter equivalent for like on a full frame body, which is something I don't find very useful. Like, to be honest, I've had multiple phones with this focal length and I shot maybe 20 photos of it. For me, it's just like not useful focal length. So at the end of the day, I end up just using the 1x, the normal regular camera, which is 24 millimeter equivalent. You can switch it to 28 or 35 mil, but at the end, it's still 24 millimeters cropped. So that's the lens I used for all of my photo shoots with the iPhone 16 Pro. And my first test was actually using a Pro Photo Flash. So like not many of you know that, but you can actually use your Pro Photo flashes, your regular camera flashes with your phones. Not even the new iPhone, like any phone, any Android or any iOS phone. You just need to have the unit equipped with the Bluetooth, like Pro Photo call it RX protocol. So I use my Pro Photo A10. I put the Click Softbox Octa on it. And in order to use that, you have to use the Pro Photo camera app, which is not super friendly in terms of usability. I found it hard to actually, expose the way I wanted, but I did snap a bunch of portraits of my wife, with a backlit sunset kind of coming from the back through the trees, and the results are great. The only downside is when using Pro Photo app, you only get 12 megapixels from the main camera. I don't know why. This is some sort of limitation within the app, and there is no way to change it, at least at this point. So I do count that we will see the update to the app in order to get 24 or 48 megapixels with the flash. So right now it's only 12, but look at the results. They're great. But for the next photo shoot, I ditched the flash because I wanted to see the full potential of the main camera on the iPhone. It's supposed to be faster. It's supposed to be, super snappy in terms of taking a lot of photos, people walking and so on. So that's what I was trying to see how it works. And I'll be honest with you, I tried shooting full RAWs. So I was actually switching between shooting RAW format and the regular photos in portrait mode. And the first thing I noticed, this might be just the iOS bug because this is the first version of the system. Camera was freezing. Whenever I was switching back and forth a couple times, I had my camera just completely freezing and I wasn't able to take a photo. I had to kill the camera app, and then open it once again to be able to shoot. So experience was not that perfect. It wasn't super snappy. It was taking really long to save the photos, go back and forth. Again, that I think it's just the iOS bug or issue that will be resolved with some updates, but that was slight problem that I was having. And then I do have a few observations about RAW format and shooting RAW files on your iPhone. So when you shoot RAW files, you get the DNG files. So my workflow was I imported this DNG files to my computer, my MacBook, and then I imported them to Lightroom Classic. And here is where the things are getting interesting. So after importing them to Lightroom Classic, the photos, they look great. The default profile that they are being applied with is called Apple ProRAW, and Look at this. It doesn't act like a RAW format. When you try to change exposure, it's more like you're changing the brightness. It's just darkening the entire image. It doesn't look like RAW, and the sliders, they don't feel regular RAW file format. But when you switch to any other profile, and what is weird, there is no Adobe standard that you can apply to iPhone 16 Pro. I could do that with iPhone 14, so I could easily apply my Adobe standard profile, but here I can't, so I had to use these weird ones. So let's say modern, and look at this. The photo looks completely different. So it's completely underexposed. So you can see how actually iPhone is exposing. I noticed that back in the day with 14 Pro that iPhone is exposing for highlights. So everything else is super dark. And then, within the iPhone processing or with the profile as well, it's trying to get the image like looking really great. So the sky is blue, and then it brings back everything from shadows. So, the photo that you see on your phone looks great, but then the raw file, when you try to edit this, like looks really bad. Good thing though, now the sliders, they work completely normally. So you can work with the exposure. Look at this. It looks like super fine. And you can actually bring everything from the shadows really easily. The only thing is to get that image looking like really good, I had to use mask, and I had to like take some time with editing the photo. And if you use any presets, obviously like I use mine, but if you use any type of presets, they do not use Apple Pro RAW profile. So when you apply the preset, you'll get like this image being like super dark, and you have to work on the image. So you might be thinking, oh, just switch the profile to the, Apple Pro format in your preset. But if you do that, the photo looks just so bad because that profile is kind of like preset already. So it feels like you're applying a preset to a preset, which looks completely bad. Like the vibrance is off, the contrast is off, everything is off in this image. It just looks so unnatural. So I do not recommend doing that. On the flip side, when you're using your regular camera, so like regular format with your iPhone, so non-RAW, you're shooting non-RAW files, first of all, you get to control the depth of field because like by default, you get, if it recognizes a person, it acts like a portrait mode. You can set this to off, so the portrait mode can be off, or it can be on, and you can artificially blur the background, which in my opinion looks amazing for what it is. So you can make the phone photos look like non-phone photos. But the second point is that since these photos are actually so good exposure-wise, so they're like so well exposed, and that exposure is baked into that image, if you imported that file to Lightroom, you can actually apply your preset, and with just few clicks, you have your photo looking really good, like almost perfect. So you're now looking at a set of images that I've shot in portrait mode, so no RAW, edited in Lightroom Mobile with my flat preset applied. Not bad, right? They look kind of okay in my opinion. They look like almost like my regular like camera photos. Like obviously if you zoom in, you'll see, but like for Instagram stories or like some quick snaps, it does actually look really, really good. And these photos are always going to be less flexible than the RAW format photos. So here, just take a look at these side by side, the RAW and the regular photo. So, you can see that with a RAW photo. First of all, you're getting twice bigger image because you're getting 48 megapixels, but also you can see that like changing white balance or changing contrast just works better on the actual RAW file than the HEIC file. But regular photos, they do have one more advantage now. The new photography styles in the iOS 18 with iPhone 16 Pros. So this is actually really cool because now, like by default, you can change the way your photos are gonna look straight out of your iPhone camera. So you can make them warmer, you can make them more contrasty, and you can always go back. So you can actually go to any image you've shot and change the style like the way you want it, and then set this to default. And here's my take after doing all of this analyzing. Like I definitely won't be shooting RAW files on my iPhone. This just doesn't make sense to me. First of all, they take way more space on your phone than their regular photos. But then the editing workflow, I feel is just not worth it. I do much prefer the look of a portrait mode photo with the photography style applied and then with my preset applied on top of that, which gives me like let's say 90% of the look I would want. The only reason I can think of to actually shoot RAW photos would be if I have like a nice view. I'm like either landscape or I'm in the top of the Empire State Building and want to take like a snap of the city and I want just a full 48 megapixels, the best quality I have, then I can just switch to RAW file. But for like a regular snaps, for like, like a portraits of people or like even like a quick impromptu photo shoot, like the one I just did, I do feel that the regular format is just way better, and the mix of, you know, the opportunities that you get with being able to shoot that quickly with iPhone, or even adding a flash on top of that, I feel it's great. Let me know about your thoughts about all of this computational photography in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. Magic is out. Bye.